Greetings. I am on my drill weekend, so I figured to make a few videos while I've got a little bit of time here in my office. So I want to talk about a few things that are kind of military related, and this specific one I want to talk about is something that's near and dear to me. In fact, I just experienced going through this or falling into this issue myself. And it's the idea, and I feel like because I'm in the uniform and we talk about, the military is about defense and offense and protecting a country or protecting those in need or whatnot, that the idea of putting up a defense mechanism or to defend ourselves against other people, specifically people who might emotionally hurt us, is something we tend to do. Now, there is a hang up on this, and this is something that I did recently. Okay, so we're going to address this one specific point, and this is the idea of going to war against people who are not actually our enemies, who have done nothing to incur our wrath or to make us feel like they should be coming at us or that we need to defend ourselves against them. How does a situation like this work in reality or in our relationships? Well, here's my situation. This isn't a hypothetical. This is something that actually happened to me. And I caught myself doing it because I realized that I was doing these things I'm about to talk about now. I have a good friend who I've known for probably a year and a half now, maybe even longer than that. In fact, probably closer to 2 years. And he'd been a big supporter of mine and a big advocate of mine and spoke highly of me to other people and just was really in my corner. And I had reached out to him once or twice over the last, maybe it had been 3 times. It'd been a few times over the course of the past 2 months or so, and I hadn't heard back from him. And I went to go and get a hold of him a little while ago, and I realized, man, he hasn't. I looked at this chain of text messages I had sent, and there was no response, and he hadn't called, and I left a couple messages, and he hadn't got back to me. And I started to get offended. I was upset. I was like, well, I wonder why he's not calling me. And then because I said I wonder why, I started to create reasons why in my mind. I decided maybe I had done something to upset him, or you know what, maybe he was just being a jerk and was spurning me or shunning me or just wasn't giving me his time or his attention. And I felt like, hey, I was kind of offended by that, and I decided, without even thinking about it, that I was considering unfriending him on Facebook or not following his business page anymore. And in fact, when I'd see his posts, I started to resent him. And I realized this about 2 days ago. I thought about something had come up and I wanted him to get in contact with someone that I thought would help his business. And I looked at my messages when I went to text him and I was like, why should I even bother doing this? He hasn't done anything for me. He hasn't called back. I've tried to help him. He hasn't reciprocated, not just reciprocated, but not even responded to some of these. All of a sudden I caught myself. I was like, wait a minute. I have no evidence to support that anything is going on. I'm creating in my mind reasons why he hasn't called me back. So I said, hey, you know what? I know he's busy, but I need to send him a message to show him basically that I have a little bit of concern about the way things have gone. So I sent him a message and basically said, hey, I haven't heard from you for a while, but there's some things I want to talk to you about. If you're too busy, I understand. But if I've done something to upset you or offend you, I want to apologize. If I've done something wrong, because sometimes that happens. You can offend someone without even knowing it, and you may not think you need to apologize for it, but sometimes that does happen. Anyways, long story short, he called me back, was very apologetic. I mean, he felt terrible. In fact, we went out and had lunch the next day, and he was very humble and very repentant and very apologetic with me. He said, hey, I'm so sorry. I think highly of you. I think the world of you. You're a great friend, this and this and that. And I felt bad. I was like, hey, man, what happened was more an issue of my insecurities being projected onto you and filling a void where I didn't have information. And it made me think of this book I read back in junior high. And I don't remember the name of the book, and I don't remember the gist of the story, but the concept was this boy who had some emotional issues, some anxiety and inferiority complex, became friends with a very popular boy, very successful boy, athletic and all this. And he began to think that this boy who he viewed as higher or better than him was plotting against him or was not really his friend. And he did certain things that actually ended up leading to this other boy, this more popular athletic boy, dying. And at the end of it, it came down to the idea that this boy, this more popular boy, had been an absolutely loyal friend to this other kid, and had always had his back and had always supported him. And the concept, or the phrase I remember, is that we sometimes build walls against imaginary foes. So we put up these walls and these barriers against an enemy that we think is out there, but when the reality is there is no one there assaulting us. Be careful that you're not doing this with those who you love the most, those who you're closest with, specifically family members who haven't talked to you in a little while, or friends that you haven't connected with. Whenever there's a lack of information as to what's going on and your brain starts to fill in that void, almost inevitably something bad will come out of that. So if you find yourself in these situations, stop yourself, take time, reach out to these people, let them know how important it is to you, let them know how important they are to you, and I promise you, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find a resolution. It may be something where, again, like I said earlier, you may have offended them, or it may just be something as simple as, you know what, they were being lazy. We're all lazy sometimes. We don't always return phone calls. Forgive, forget, move on, strengthen the relationship, be happier, and don't lose friends that you don't need to. Don't go to war against people that aren't your enemies. Something to think about.